The famous furry anthology is back. Let's take a look at the last issue and then the most latest issue of Furrlough. Hey everyone, it's vmcampos Comic Book Fan. Welcome to the latest episode of the weekly vmcampos Comic Book Club. This is the series where I review a comic book, new or old, from my collection and rate it on various factors. Let's get started. Now, if you're a longtime comic book fan, anthropomorphic comic book fan, this title looks familiar. Furrlough. This is a comic book that's been around since the 90s. And the latest issue has just debuted, issue 194. We're going to take a look at this issue. The classic furry comic returns, and it's going to be a full reveal issue because I have not opened this at all. I haven't seen anything that's inside of it at all, and I'm very excited because the last issue that debuted was issue 193. Okay, 193, 194, but wait a minute, what does that say? Published in December 2013? Yes, Furrlough hasn't had a new issue in a decade, and the new issue just debuted. So actually, we're going to take a quick look at the final issue of Furrlough published 10 years ago, and then the latest issue. Let's get started. To the uninitiated, Furrlough is a furry comic that debuted back in the 90s. For most of its history, it's been a black and white anthology series, first focusing in on military types of stories, then it became fantasy and the like. So this was the last issue published. It's actually square bound, or perfect bound, and it was $10 when it debuted more than 10 years ago. If we jump back to issue 79, a more classic issue, this was one of these saddle-stitched comics for the much more reasonable price of $2.97. Here's issue 79, featuring a great Daphne Lage cover. This one was published not that long ago. Issue 79 published in 1999. Wow, time flies. But yeah, this is a black and white comic that has had various stories, various creators throughout the decades. So yeah, literally, this is a comic that's been around decades, if you've never heard of it. The art ranges from amazing to less amazing to super amazing. That's issue number 79. If we travel even further back in time, here's an issue 9 from July 1993. That was 30 years ago. What? Ah, the 90s. Yeah, so this particular issue, oops, we got to skip that part. This particular issue is even older, way back on issue number 9. I don't have an issue number 1. But have you seen the prices of furry comics nowadays? They're getting kind of insane. Now, I was around during these times, so I do have some of those issues from back then, and in today's economy, those early furry comics are finally raising in value. Many things are raising in those issues. But this is one of the progenitors. The other big furry comic, of course, is Genus, which we might talk about in a later issue. Yeah, these furry comics are getting valuable. Anyway, today what we've got on hand, Project Echo, what we've got on hand is to take a quick look at the last issue, then we'll get to the latest issue just published. As I started to show, this one now is square bound with a glued spine. And what's interesting, there were various stories, of course, and this one was, Eben and May, Part 41, Tales of Marga, Toy Surprise, Part 11, The Witch Pickers, Part 1, Dragon Quest, Part 13, Eben and May 42, and then Cantrip, the Magic Rabbit preview. So it's interesting to see once I crack open the brand new issue if any of these stories continued, especially some of these that had a, issue number 1. And I was noticing as I was browsing this issue for the video, we have definitely the influence of anime. Well, it's always been there. Even back 30 years ago, the influence of anime and manga was in these comics. And Antarctic Press, they were one of the big proponents of anime and manga in the US, one of the best places where you would get the latest straight from Japan. And then we see the style influencing the various artists. Here's a much more fun, cute, cartoony style. This is why I like furry comics. They can be fun, they can be cute, they can be cartoony, fantasy worlds. That scorpion guy looks scary. So, this was the final issue of Furrlough, although not billed as final, But after 1 year passed and no new issue, after 3 years passed and no new issue, after a decade passed and no new issue, we thought, hey, maybe that was the last issue of Furrlough. And then it ended there. Until 2024, when it returned. And then literally returned. The classic furry comic returns home. In the beginning, Furrlough started off at Antarctic Press, and then moved on to Radio Comics, and then it remained there for the rest of its run. And through shenanigans that I'm not aware of, but I know who to ask, we can then find out, okay, well, Furrlough is back at Antarctic Press, who has been publishing comics since the 80s. But okay, let's jump over to the latest issue, issue 194. It's back. It's reasonably priced again. Let's check it out. So as I said, I have not seen this issue at all. And when I saw it for sale on eBay, I snapped it up. And I even had a little bit of a convo with the Ellen Winkler about things for a moment. And yeah, to my knowledge, AP is going to publish this until issue 200, because we were at 193 before everything ended. So we're going to get to at least issue 200. And if you want more issues of Furrlough beyond 200, hey, maybe buy these books, read them, collect them, whatever, and let's keep this classic comic going, because it's been around over 30 years now. Amazing. Okay, I keep saying okay a lot. Whoa, we got color first of all. So, okay, color. We haven't had color Furrlough books in a long time. Maybe there's a one shot here and there once in a while, but they've always been in black and white, basically. Right away, we see big, glorious 21st century color. Okay, so what do we have here? We've got Blinth, story by Jason Dubé, artwork Noel Serrato, colors Vasco Sobral. I don't recognize any of these names. They might be some newcomers in the world of anthropomorphic comics. Lauren Ipsum, The Chosen One, creator, writer, artist, Charles Brubaker. Charles Brubaker? Any relation to Ed Brubaker? And we go, oh, here we go. Special thanks to Ellen Winkler and Radio Comics. Okay, so some sort of interesting relationship is happening here. Furrlough, shout out to Ellen Winkler, Radio Comics. Cover art, Holly Doherty, and editor Ben Dunn, of course. So there seems to be 2 stories in this anthology issue. None of them are continuing the stories from the final issue. Again, quick reminder there, those are the final stories back at that point. And now brand new stories here. Let's look if they followed the tradition of the credits. The credits would often have print run as well as a pithy quote. Nope, I don't see any print run or pithy quote. On the final issues, we also did not have any copyright indicia on those final issues. But on the early issues we did, and that was, again, something that was sort of a staple of these books. So this one says, print run of 3000 with the pithy quote, chicken pox is no laughing matter. Going back even further to issue 9, it also says a print run of 3000, actually print run of 2400, and no animals were injured in the making of this comic book. So no return to the print run or pithy quote. Obviously get your own issue here. I'm not going to stop and look at every single page. Buy your own issue, support the book. So here we have an Anubis type of character. And yeah, it's modern colorization. I'm not seeing a lot of furry stuff just yet, except that guy, I guess. And then we see some more furries over here. We got some demons and stuff. Ooh, lots of action, lots of color, sound effects. Blood and guts and battling and so forth. Time moves differently in the dark. Okay, so yeah, lots of action and colors, close-ups, cool panel layouts. Again, this is the first time I ever look at this. I haven't previewed any of these pages at all. I'm just getting the very first visceral looks. Got some fan service going on there. The first visceral look at things. We've got these furry characters that are vaguely Sonic the Hedgehog-esque, and then some very deep plots going on. So yeah, I don't want to spoil it too much, although that does say to be continued. Oh, I did see something over here in the fine print. It says, send Furrlough submissions to Antarctic Press. So they're taking submissions again. I wonder if they have planned all the way to the issue 200 with stories already, or if not, well, furry fans out there, add your submissions to see about getting published in the venerable furry comic to define the generations. All right, moving on. Second story is in black and white. It's a very cartoony, Mike Kazela-esque style of art. I love Kazela's art, and this is Brubaker. So, yeah, very cute cartoony. We've got the simple panel layouts, very cartoony expressions, and I'm not quite stopping to see if these are one big interconnected story or just small vignettes. You can pause it on your own as you're getting flipped off. And so this vaguely sounds familiar. I think I've heard of Lorem Ipsum elsewhere. And yes, I know it's the graphic design term, but what I mean is this a character or a comic or a webcomic or something that I've seen somewhere? Yeah, these are some really Mike Kazela-esque styles here and there. And that style looks like Tales from the Bean World, perhaps? Yeah, you get a lot of bang for your buck, lots of panels to enjoy. For more Lorem Ipsum, read it at lauren.smallbugstudio.com. There we go, Bug, Tales of the Bean World. And then we got the end here. Okay, so 2 stories, one long epic, colorized with lots of action, lots of modern coloring, panel layouts that are interesting. Then we've got a chock-a-block, small strips sort of things with very cartoony arts, but very nice environments and the like, expressions, really nice expressions, posing and such. And then the book is done. So no advertising at all, not even house ads, no editorial at the beginning. Back in the good old days, you could catch up with the radio waves to catch up with Eline's soapbox, things to come, and then of course house ads and back issues. This one doesn't have any of that. I wonder if it'll evolve kind of to that style as time goes on. And then here we have a back splash page. So blink, got the Ankh symbol. We have this ancient Egyptian mythology, because we all know that the ancient Egyptians were the first furries. Just look at all of the hieroglyphics. And then it ends, no back page with other extra stuff. So yeah, very interesting. Again, pick up a copy for yourself to keep the series running to at least issue 200 of this classic series. Actually, full disclosure, as of this video, there are at least 2 issues out. I picked up 194 and 195 after a vicious bidding war on eBay. And I'm starting to see the prices of these getting into the double digits on eBay, so be aware. And of course, the older issues, I'm starting to see a rise in a lot of the old furry comics, especially more of the yiffy style of comics. That's for another video. But yeah, we've got Furrlough has returned for the new generation. I usually do a rating on these videos, but this time I'd like to hear from you. What do you think about in my grading criteria? What do you give this cover? What do you give the interior art, the plot, and the enjoyability of a book on a scale of 1 to 5? I still have to absorb this comic. As I said, this is the first time I ever look at it. I'm still processing it, that after 10 years, the new issue has published. And even looking back on my comic collecting history, yeah, I've been reading comics since 1987, furry comics since the 90s. Still have all of those things in my collection, and it's really interesting to see the resurgence of this style of comic, especially if eBay prices are to be trusted. Some of those books are getting quite pricey. If you're looking for yet the next thing to add to your PC, furry comics might be the way to go. No, it's not all sex all the time. It's also comedy and cute art, and the sort of the indie style of the 90s that I miss. So welcome back, Furrlough. Let's see you reach issue 200 and beyond. This has been the weekly VM Campos Comic Book Club, and I'll see you next week.